first of all, don't forget to hit that like, please, if you could. Share the show, share the clips, comment, write a little commenty thing below and stuff on other. And if you're on another platform, go to YouTube. If you're ever on there, if you ever peruse by YouTube, you ever in the YouTube neighborhood, just hit a like and a subscribe there while you're at it. You know, while you're feeling it. If you feel like that, that's cool. And then, of course, same thing on Twitch. Come on, Twitch. Subscribe. We're trying to hit our 100K mark on all of our sites. So that's our goal for all of them. All right, now, if I may, I made a special short video not too long ago about how blatantly full of shit and stupid Jim Jordan is, where he's making this case about. But well, it's like his 4 points that he keeps going back. He was on Burisma. He doesn't know what he's doing. They made a phone call, and it changed what Biden was going to do. And then I've shown you that, quite frankly, there were memos a month before that were saying this was the goal for that particular meeting, was to get Shokin out of there. And ultimately, the guy that went in after him is the guy who went after Zlochevsky, and that the concern from them was that they had Zlochevsky wrapped around their finger, and that Biden was going to put in somebody that would actually go after the guys at Burisma, which he did, and that guy did, and Zlochevsky had to flee the country. It's so base. I don't know why they have a hard time understanding it or why they keep digging. Maybe it's because it just works with their people. You know what I mean? Like they've heard this so many times, they just believe it the more you say it. Anyways. This is a new one. Jim Jordan reveals critical questions he's going to ask Hunter during the deposition.
Congressman Jim Jordan.
Which I think, why would you do that? I think, why would you show your cards? No.
Is with us now. What's your take on Adam Schiff's 2024 agenda?
Well, it's the left, as you said, Stuart. Open borders, non-citizens voting, raise everybody's taxes. I mean,
No, we're not. The Democrats are not trying to get non-citizens voting.
It's
and raising taxes. Like, where is that?
Basically, Joe Biden. I say all the time, think about it, in 3 years' time, we have literally went from
a pandemic where we lost ultimately 1 million Americans to most people being vaccinated, everybody being back to work, the longest stretch of below 4% unemployment in our lifetimes, rising wages, an infrastructure bill passed, a rescue bill passed, the Chips and Science Act basically shuttering China's theft of American intellectual property. Oh yeah, and fuck you.
Secure border to no border.
Again, I would talk to the Customs and Border Patrol. Why are they just letting people through? Is it out of spite?
We've went from safe streets to record crime. We went from $2 gas to $3.4.
We went from no one on the streets to crime, and then it going back down. And by the way, we didn't have a pandemic before the 90s. Anybody remember the pandemic of the late 80s, which is when crime was actually higher in most cities than it has been since post-COVID? Anybody remember a previous era where crime was that high, but it didn't follow some sort of giant world-crushing pandemic?
Or $5 gas, and maybe most importantly, we went from stable prices to record inflation under the left's policies.
Stable? They were stable, were they? Sorry, in June of 2020, when in Texas specifically, they were showing people lining up for food donations, for basically bread lines for Americans because of the COVID shutdowns. Those are gone. Those don't exist anymore. We do not have giant lines of people in cars trying to get food because everything was fucking shut down.
And I haven't even got into foreign policy where, the weakness projected from the Oval Office has led to all kinds of terrible things, namely Hamas and Hezbollah attacking our dearest and best friend, the state of Israel. So that's just more, that's where the left is, whether they're running for Senate, whether...
Sorry, was Netanyahu too tough or too much of a wuss? Was he distracted? How is it, we left Afghanistan, so Hamas decided it was time to attack Israel, and you're just going to blow past the fact that they planned this right after Trump gave Israel the Golan Heights, recognized Jerusalem as the capital, and decided to move the embassy there, and they decided all all bets are off. America is signing with basically the Netanyahu crowd, and that was what made them go, we're going to do a rope-a-dope and murder a bunch of people?
Running for president.
I think we're in agreement on this one, Jim, so I'm going to move on. Hunter.
Really? All right. You're just going to move on from this right here? I mean, it is Fox Business. You're just going to ignore that. Yep. I mean, I can understand why other networks would, but you guys are Fox Business. I would think most of the time Fox Business looks at that number and thinks that means that the sun shines out of the president's ass. When if you think they'd ignore if Trump was president and the Dow was at 37,000, approaching 38,000?
Will sit for a closed-door deposition February the 28th. What's the first question you want answered by him?
Who'd you call on December 4th? You're in Dubai. The heads of this Burisma, this Ukrainian energy company that you sat on the board of, said, we're under pressure. We need help relieving the pressure we're under from the prosecutor in Ukraine. When we talked to Devin Archer, he said he called his dad. Then he said he called D.C. I want to know who he talked to. Did you?
Well, he said he didn't know. You guys were like, did he call his dad? And then he was like, actually, they said they were calling Washington. I don't know who that is in particular.
You talked to Vice President Biden. Who else in D.C.?
And by the way, let's go with he talked to his dad. Hunter Biden, with Zlochevsky in tow from Burisma, gets a call from him and he goes, hey, Dad, they want you to fire the prosecutor. And he goes, did the administration tell you? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, I'm going to. We're all going to. Everybody, the fucking World Bank wants it. The fucking EU wants it. Van der Leyen, Obama, everybody in the State Department. They're like, this motherfucker's got to go. So, I mean, what am I just going to add Zlochevsky to a fucking, to the fuck that dude tick in the gotta go column?
Did you talk to? Because what happened just a few days after Joe Biden went to...
Oh my God, it's the same shit. Good Lord. All right. Pause. I don't know why. Every fucking time we always gotta be a thing where we go into the thing. All right, where is this? Go back to search. And we go to Shokin. We be Shokin. Whoops. Yeah, there we go. Grab this guy right here, if I may. And ladies and gentlemen, I give you, let's see, I'll stretch this out so it looks better because I even built another screen for it. So I should be able to bring it out. Go down to here. We'll go to this guy right here, if I may. Yeah, there you go. And this is the U.S. State Department notes for Biden's visit to Ukraine, that December trip that he's talking about, except this was written this is the final version, November 23rd. This is before the phone call. And again, background, is the Vice President Biden meeting with Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, December 7th through 8th. This is it. Sensitive but unclassified, November 22nd, 2015. This is again found on a right-wing site, Just the News, posted with a bunch of other shit that they got through FOIA or some other way, or from like the Trump crowd. Look in here. Let's see. Talking about Petro Poroshenko, that he should talk about reforms. There is wide agreement that anti-corruption must be at the top of the list. And that reforms must include an overhaul of the Prosecutor General's office, including the removal of Prosecutor General Shokin, who is widely regarded as an obstacle to fighting corruption, if not a source of the problem. Again, this goes back to the whole fucking diamond prosecutor shit. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Ukraine diamond prosecutors. That's Shokin's boys.
Ukraine conditioned the release of American tax dollars on firing the prosecutor who was applying the pressure.
Right, because that was actually in his mandate. Whoops. That's in his mandate from the actual talking points from the State Department. Vice President's meeting, the goals and objectives. Here it is. Your visit to Kiev comes as infighting amongst the parties in Ukraine's government coalition is growing and stalling progress in the government's agenda. U.S. Department of State. These are what I agree. Participants. Okay. SPM Minsk implementation. They were also talking about on the participants. Vice President, Ambassador Jeff Pyatt, Biographical information is attached to this. And on the other side, Petro Poroshenko, president of Ukraine, and other people who might be there. And then these are the other folks. And then there's the other parts of this, and these are the changes, and there's a wide agreement. And they've touched on different, there were changes in this. None of them affected the part where the guy's got to fucking go. We will continue to stand behind you in your reform efforts. I will sign a $1 billion loan guarantee with you today and announce additionally this assistance will go to reform priorities, fighting corruption, strengthening the rule of law, restoring economic stability. The new announcement does not include security assistance, which we will continue to work separately. We need Ukraine to commit the personal resources to make this training effort and multinational joint commission successful. We recognize Ukraine's right to self-defense. We have not ruled out. This is the speech they would give later after this was agreed. Okay, talking points. Anti-corruption efforts, top of your agenda. That will mean standing up the National Investigative Bureau. It will also require changing the Prosecutor General, who is damaging your credibility and obstructing the fight against corruption. This is in his fucking talking points. Before the phone call ever happened. It will also require changing the prosecutor. We suggest you change the, signing of the $1 billion thing down here on U.S. support. There is a requirement of unity and reforms that have to be met before that happens. And they weren't. They'd been dicking around for months. How fucking... All right.
To Burisma, the company that Hunter Borden sat on the board of.
Hunter Borden from the ice cream company?
So that, I think, is a critical question. Then there's some other obvious ones, like who's the big guy? We all know who it is, but I want to have Hunter Biden confirm that.
Ask what's his name? Ask what's his name? Bobulinski.
All right, who's the big? What was the brand that you were selling? Your partner Devin Archer said the brand was access to Joe Biden.
No, he didn't.
Is that what you think? Is that the brand? Is that what you were selling? So I think there's some just fundamental basic questions that we want to get out, and then there'll be a lot of others as well.
If it's a closed door hearing, and it is, what's the advantage of that from your point of view?
Well, you get a whole hour. Our chief counsel on the committee will get a whole hour of questioning. Then it goes to the Democrats, then back, and you can go several hours of this. That's where you can really get into things versus the 5 minutes that happens typically in a congressional hearing, member by member. So you always do depositions first, and we have them, I think, now in the proper sequence. We had Kevin Morris yesterday, the guy who bought a bunch of Hunter Biden's art, who's paid for a bunch of his tax bills and other bills. We're going to have.
Who's by the way, a Democratic donor who actually gives a shit about the Democratic agenda, that idea, and he's just a rich dude. That guy buying that guy turned out to be the person who was buying the art. It makes this so much less of a story. I mean, think about it. It'd be one thing that these motherfuckers always talk about China money and money from our adversaries and our enemies all over the world. And in reality, this dude isn't even trying to get shit out of the administration. This is a guy who just likes the priorities of the Biden administration and has money enough to cover this. That's where this came from. It's so fucking lame. Meanwhile, Steve Bannon, pardoned by Donald Trump for fucking maggots out of their money, is on Guo and Guai's fucking yacht when the dude is arrested. Come on.
We're going to have next week Rob Walker. We got Eric Schwerin. We got Tony Bobulinski. We got Jim Biden, who's coming in. And then, of course, Hunter Biden at the end of February. So we got these key people we want to talk to as part of our impeachment inquiry. And then we'll have to make a decision whether we're moving forward with articles of impeachment or not.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really, at this point, you're 3 years in and you're waiting for somebody. What do you expect him to do? Hold up what evidence you have and make it more incriminating? Seriously.
All right, Jim. The New Hampshire primary is coming up Tuesday next week. Trump's clearly running away with the nomination. That's my opinion. Is it time for the other candidates, Haley and DeSantis, to drop out?
Well, I leave that up to them. What I know is President Trump's going to win. I think he's going to run away with this nomination, just like he did in Iowa. I think he's going to be, more importantly,
You mean with a low turnout?
Our next president, which is
You're predicting a low turnout, like a historically low turnout for the rest of these races?
what we really need. Back to the policies where you had someone in the Oval Office who actually did what he told the American people he was going to do and made life
What, grab women by the pussy?
better for families across this great country. So
Well, as long as you didn't come into contact with them, I guess.
that's what I hope happens if they stay in for a few more states. I mean, that's up to them, but I don't think it matters. President Trump's going to win. He's going to be our nominee, and I think he's going to be our next president.
One thing that's been striking us is the extraordinary contrast between the President Biden, whose cognitive ability seems to be declining on a daily basis and who has absolutely no energy, and Donald Trump, who's racing around the country from courtroom to caucuses to primaries, and the man doesn't lose a step. I mean, that's...
Well, tell me you haven't actually watched his speeches without telling me you haven't actually watched his speeches.
Hell of a contrast.
No, it sure is, and I think the country sees that. They know the energy President Trump has. More importantly, they know.
Yes, it's and they notice the sniffing at the same time, and also the kind of rambling, like word salad, bullshitting, lost, drifty conversational tone that mixes in with his like clinging to the teleprompter at times. Yes, we noticed.
Oh, he's fighting for them. He has a great line he uses in almost every speech he gives.
Yeah. That could be true of everything he says.
And he says, they're coming after me because I'm fighting for you.
It's not exactly what he says. It's if you've heard it that many times, like they're coming, they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just in the way, is what he actually says. And how do I know that better than he knows that? And both of these motherfuckers are like, wow, I've seen all of his speeches, and they get better and better and better. Really? Then. Because I can quote some of his shit in my goddamn sleep, even though I don't want to.
And actually out in Iowa, he changed it a little bit. I thought it was even better. He said out in Iowa, we were at a rally with the president. He said, they're coming after my freedom because I'm fighting for yours. And
yeah, that's not what he said either. They're trying to take away my freedom because I won't let them take away your freedom. That's what it actually... Fucking hell.
The country understands that, and that's why you saw the enthusiasm in Iowa in minus 20-degree temperatures, people coming out to support President Trump because they know he is fighting for them, and they know what we had when he was president just a few years ago.
Syphilis?
Jim Jordan.
Stage 1?
Thank you very much for being on the show today. Always appreciate it.
You bet, Stuart.
See you soon.
Thank you, brother.
All right, yeah, gibberish.